Hi everyone, it's Anne-Marie. Welcome back to my channel. This is going to be advice for introverts, especially for college. This is actually one of my most requested videos, I think because I'm pretty open about being an introvert. It does not mean that I'm socially awkward. It just kind of means that I regain energy by being alone. Different stimulus kind of affects me differently than other people. Okay, wait. I actually did not plan to talk about this, but if you are introverted, I would highly recommend this book. It's called The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. It was super helpful. I bookmarked it all over the place. Literally gonna reread this book, but basically she talked about how even in babies you can tell kind of introversion, because if you expose a baby to a new person, an extroverted baby is kind of happy and they're more welcoming to it, but it kind of takes a lot from a baby that's more introverted. So that's kind of my definition. But I think one of the hardest adjustments or transitions, and when I really observed my introvertism, was in college. I just didn't really have any girlfriends my freshman and sophomore year of college. In high school, you kind of have your people that you grew up with, kind of your built-in best friends, family unit, your siblings. I've always grown up with very, very close, best girlfriends. So I was just kind of wondering, must be something that's wrong with me because I've met so many people. I just don't really seem to connect with any of them. So my first piece of advice is to really learn to love to be alone. And I shared this kind of with my friend Rachel, and she rephrased it as learn to love yourself. And I really liked that. It's kind of figuring out what you love to do, building yourself to be the best version of yourself. I'm talking about exercise, a good diet, all that kind of good stuff. And also just being able to go out and do things. You don't have to have someone come with you. So this past year, I lived in LA, and it was kind of my first time living in the real world outside of even a college setting, and this is where I really learned this. It was very evident. I didn't really know how to be alone. After my breakup in college, I would kind of just be sitting there by myself, and I wanted to be by myself because I wanted to think and process, but it was just kind of miserable. So I was okay, I need to go do something. And that's really when I found a love for yoga. Follow me on Instagram, Amy Goes to Yoga. It gave me a place to be, a community and people to surround myself with, but it's a very self-focused activity. I think this really helped me develop a love for myself and also independence, because it was kind of the first place that I would go to completely by myself. If I had to go to Target or something, I'd ask my boyfriend if he would want to go, or a friend, and I would never eat at a restaurant or a meal alone. Now I know that I need alone time and I love alone time, so I'll go to the library or go to yoga every day. That is my biggest piece of advice, is just to actually really love being alone and love yourself, and also being able to go out and do things. You don't have to have someone come with you. You're just happy with yourself. You don't have to wait around for someone else's schedule. You don't have to get annoyed at them when they cancel. You are fine on your own. You can go to the gym by yourself. You can go to the grocery store by yourself. You can go eat by yourself. And once you kind of grasp that, it makes life so much more fun. And I think you also just reach out to strangers and people more. I talk to everyone everywhere. It doesn't matter who or where it's at. If they're friendly looking and they're receptive, and if you're always with another person, you just don't get to experience that. So that's the big one, but this is also kind of a contrasting but very big point. There are genuinely times that I would much rather be alone than be in the presence of some people, most people actually. For introverts, it's super easy to isolate, but you need to realize and take the time to make real connections. It could be as simple as how I went to yoga every single day. There's a sense of community in a yoga studio, and you just have someone to go talk to. So this one is actually something that I could probably make a whole video on, and is only something that I recently realized. And that is to learn to confidently talk up or speak about your accomplishments and achievements. And maybe that's actually a female thing, I'm sure. Most people who talk themselves up so much, who really have nothing to show for it, are usually guys. Way much more than my female friends. I hate when people are super conceited or bragging about their accomplishments, but I've really realized, especially in a professional setting, that talking your achievements down is actually really harmful and can kind of come back around to you even if you do have good intentions with it. I literally didn't tell people that I had a YouTube channel until 2 years ago. And if someone did ask me about it, I was like, yeah, I kind of post like every now and then, but honestly, like my engagement's not that great and it's not a big deal. That's true. But that is something that I've worked really hard to build over like the last 7 years. Everyone is like, oh, I would love to do YouTube, but not everyone has actually done it. And not everyone has like 140,000 subscribers and 10 million views. I just wrote that on my resume. If I'm telling someone that I'm meeting for the first time, that's the impression that they take away. They're like, okay, like, yeah, she has a YouTube channel and it's not that great. Like, so okay. But I think there is a good balance between downplaying your achievements and talking them up. And so the best thing that's helped me is just kind of rehearsing something. It's not scripted, but it feels good to me, where I'm like, oh yeah, I do YouTube and I've been sponsored by like LinkedIn, HP, I have like 140,000 subscribers. I'm not downplaying it as easily anymore. I will be happy to talk about those kind of things to like people who are interested in when we get into deep conversation, but it's not the first thing that I bring up anymore. Personally, for me, my best friends are people that I really met by chance and that I just really deeply connected with. And usually like my closest friends are also pretty introverted, and so we love like spending one-on-one time together. And I can kind of count my close friends and like people who I like consider to be in this group of people on my two hands. So that just kind of shows you that you meet like so many people every single day, especially in college. So just think about that when you're like going out and making friends. It's like a little bit more special or rare to find those people that you really connect with. I distinctly remember seeing this one group of girls. It was like a group of 3 girls, and I knew all of them just kind of like differently from different groups of people. And they were just like talking and laughing and just having a normal time. That friend group has imploded, but I was just so upset about not having had made my group of girlfriends. I think that the quote, "Comparison is the thief of joy," is so true. In my underclassmen year, I was living with a bunch of girls, and a group of them were in this sorority together. And on Instagram, they looked like best friends. Living with them, it was such a toxic place. Never compare yourself to friend groups that you see, especially on social media. You really just never know. Just be patient that you will find your people, because you probably will. It took me 2 years, but then I found tons of girlfriends that I just absolutely like loved. It takes a lot of time, but it also takes meeting a lot of people. So my advice, if you're trying to make friends, is to expose yourself to different groups, but think about which groups that you're exposing yourself to and which groups that you think you would best fit in. I wanted to make friends who were open to diversity, open to different cultures, not people who are friends only with people who look like them. One of my only regrets in college is just not joining this like group when they started it. I don't know what it's like evolved into, but it was like a really cool group of people in my dorm. It was called, the Expat Society, and I actually have like a lot of friends who are in it, but for me, I was like, I don't know if that like makes sense for me. I'm not an expat. The people who started the club were like, no, we want you to join. That's like a really cool group of people who literally tick off all of those things. They're like culturally diverse, they're open to different people and foods and ethnicities. And instead I was like kind of going for more business-minded clubs. There's like a stereotype with like snaky business people. A lot of business people are pretty extroverted. It's kind of a lot of show. And so those maybe are not always the best people that I would want to surround myself with. I'm not saying that about everyone, but typically in those kind of clubs and organizations, like you would probably likely find people that are just kind of the stereotypical like business people. So my last piece of advice is like in regards to literally wanting to transfer. I think that everyone should give themselves time to adjust, but also to know when it's just not for you. I was seriously considering transferring like to Emory, which is where both my siblings went. After my first year, I met a bunch of people who actually felt the same way. I knew that like for me, it tends to take like a little bit longer sometimes to transition into new places. And I knew that college would be a transitional period. I just kind of knew that that wasn't like a good start for me. And I knew that I would wait it out. I have a friend who left and he didn't like USC. And for me, it really ended up working out staying there. For him, it really ended up working out transferring schools. And he's really happy that he did. And he also not only made close friends from both like USC, but also the next school that he went to. Shout out to you, Sahil. For that kind of stuff, I think you just really have to like dig deep and realize like, is this the place for me? Can I find a place here? So yeah, that's pretty much all of my advice for introverts, especially in college. But I think this is pretty relevant even after you graduate. I don't think that I would have been in a place to give like helpful advice when I was in college. A lot of these things I learned after I graduated and like my year off. So I'm actually glad that I waited to make this today. And if you guys want to check out this book. I will leave a link below. It's so interesting. It literally goes through the history of like why our culture embraces the extrovert, and it also just kind of goes behind the psychology and science behind introvertism and extrovertism. As I mentioned with the baby thing that I did not describe very well, that I would like to memorize to regurgitate to other people, because a lot of people still have the misconception that introvertism means being socially awkward, which is just not the case. But I hope this helped. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!